Today I'm talking about General Ibrahim Badamasi's book launch and his 81st birthday. That event was graced by former Nigerian leaders, about 5 of them or thereabout, and those who have benefited immensely from the generosity of Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. The book, which I'm yet to read completely, is one that I thought that it should have been written while some of the actors in that works were still alive. But being a Maradona that he is, he was able to save it for the last, knowing fully well that most of the people he talked about are no more. It's going to be his words against those who are no longer with us. So I'm not surprised that it took this dimension. But many things got to me during that book launch. A lot of people who fought against General Ibrahim Babangida are now on the same page with him, laughing and discussing some of the events that had happened back in the days. It's a book that tried to rewrite history and placing the IBB as the victim, the good guy who was vulnerable at the time. That's the way I look at that book. But I don't think that was what really happened. One thing that came out clearly is that when you place General Ibrahim Babangida and General Sani Abacha side by side, the late dictator that was brutal, according to a lot of Nigerians, still commands a lot of respect over IBB. IBB was seen as the Maradona, the good guy you see, but a lot of families were thrown into agony and pain due to his actions. Let's not forget the Ejigbo air mishap that killed a lot of military colonels and officers. Let's not forget the Gideon Oka coup, where a lot of Benue and Middle Belt officers had to pay dearly with their lives. Let's not forget the lot of families that lost their loved ones. Let's not forget Ben Ekele, Chris Oche, and the wife who was later taken out in the UK. Let's not forget those families who could not till date have a closure because of the way their loved ones were taken from them. Let's not forget Dele Giwa's ordeal. And let's not forget, ultimately, the June 12th elections. What is General IBB telling Nigerians? That he was the leader everyone saw, but he was not in charge? Is the general telling the whole country that General Abacha was a de facto president and decided who he needed to hand over power to? I don't think that book should have been published. That's a book that I think Nigerians should have gone to court to stop. Because if some sons can approach the court to stop Dele Farotimi from circulating his book, I think Nigerians can equally do the same with General IBB's book. There's absolutely nothing in that book that we really don't know. Humphrey Nwosu conducted the freest and fairest election I remember vividly. 32 years later, the then president will eventually release the results. And where is the presidential candidate today? Who is going to be sworn in? Will there ever be any transition? The corruption in Nigeria began under General IBB. And that is why a lot of people could come out to give testimony about how a sitting president made them wealthy, or else there wouldn't have been anybody today. Even the Dangote I thought was one hardworking man who made his money would attest to the fact that IBB gave him an oil well. And this was how our wealth became a national cake. IBB baked it and distributed it all around. He was not a brutal guy, but he also didn't spare people. He smiled with everyone, and he had a way of corrupting the system and corrupting everyone who stood against him, regardless of who you are, where you come from. Lowering all the bars, destroying every ethical standard of the country. The same IBB was responsible for introducing SAP that led to the devaluation of our currency. Today, IBB is crying as the victim. I don't know if IBB wants to rewrite history or wants history to be fair to him, but one thing the whole country will not forget IBB for is the fact that Nigeria took a downward spiral movement under IBB. Everything about Nigeria went crashing under the guy because he had a way of settling everyone. He has a way of betraying his friends. We remember vividly how his childhood friend, General Maman Vasa, paid dearly for a coup, allegedly, that till date no one could verify. We saw how a lot of officers also lost their lives when that happened. Under General IBB, we lost the best pilots, the best officers, the best of men who have built career in the military. We saw how IBB betrayed Nigeria. We saw how IBB opened our national treasure to families and friends. Is this what IBB was going to tell the country? If it were to be a sane society, the IBBs of this world would have been in jail, completely forgotten there. But look at how he was celebrated. And everyone who claimed to have been fighting for democracy suddenly forgot what they went through. The true heroes of democracy were those who paid dearly with their lives, not the ones you saw grinding from molar to premolar in the name of making merry during his book launch. It is a shame that those whom we thought were fighting for democracy would eventually sit on the same table with IBB and try to make less the situation Nigeria was in there. It was a dark cloud the country was in under the IBB. A lot of us were still quite young, but we knew what happened under the IBB regime. It's a sad reality that the same IBB will be granted audience to speak about the same country he mismanaged. And history ordinarily will not be fair to IBB. But are we going to be expecting other people to come in the next 30 years to begin to confess about the things they did and the things they couldn't do? This should be a sad reminder for everyone who is occupying public office. But Nigeria is not a country where anybody bothers about their actions and inactions. It's only when they get out of office they remember the things they couldn't do, the things they have never done, and they will never own up completely. But they would always want to try to rewrite history like IBB is trying to do today. But we all know the role IBB played in destroying Nigeria, in destroying the finest of men who would have shaped our history. It's a sad reality that IBB would sit in public space, raise 17 billion naira in the name of building presidential library. I believe such funds could have been channeled into ending poverty, particularly in northern Nigeria. IBB has enough money to build a presidential library for himself. Those whom he has made rich are the ones contributing money for him today. One thing I saw in that book launch was clear, that those whose hands are in our cookie jar are all in cahoots with those who have destroyed Nigeria. IBB alone did not loot the Nigerian treasury. He shared it around irrespective of their tribes and religion. And everyone you see as a wealthy man in Nigeria today benefited immensely from our national treasure. All thanks to General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. I don't know how his final days would look like, but if you ask me, it looks like IBB lives in regrets. And he's been trying to make light his burden. But how much of this can he truly do? Can we learn from the experience of General Ibrahim Badamasi today, that a man who led Nigeria to a path where a country was bleeding, a country was in pain, a country at a crossroad, a country where a man who knew people were not qualified, but he would rather put his critics in position just to rubbish them. When we look at these things today, are we ready to make a U-turn? For those who are in public offices today, what do we have to learn from the mistakes and the agony that General IBB is currently facing today? It's an opportunity for us to learn and to know that whichever position we occupy today, it's never permanent. Whatever we make out of such position is what counts. And this is where I encourage everyone to make judicious use of the positions they found themselves in today. I'd love to read your comment on this issue, and I hope to see you in the next video.